So before I begin, I want each one of you to look into yourselves. How many of you have ever felt suffocated and trapped in your surroundings? How many of you have been in the grip of meaningless restrictions which did not allow you to do what your heart wanted to do? Have you not felt paralyzed in such situations? Most of us have felt so. What is it that stops us then to break free from those barriers which make life so difficult for us and sometimes threaten our very existence? I think, and you all will agree with me, it is our attitude of giving up even before trying and the taboos prancing around us. It's nothing new when I say there have been taboos in our society for everyone, especially women, and I would stress, especially around single women. So, taboos around single women and the resultant mental and emotional agony she has to undergo is the topic of my discussion today. So, when I was just discussing with my daughter about the agenda of today's discussion, she exclaimed, "Why only single women? The concept of womanhood itself is a taboo in this country." So, having argued a lot in the past about feminism with her, I thought this was one more of her feminist outbursts. But later I thought she had a point. And retrospection of my own life made me realize that at every phase of my life, I was in the grip of one taboo or the other. First as a girl, then as a married woman, and then as a single woman, I was in a whirlpool of taboos. What was the biggest problem? I had got used to the taboos, so much so that I hardly questioned them until I began to feel that suffocation. So I got married at the age of 19 years. I was a bright student. I was a state topper in my stream, a gold medalist for academic achievements. But I never treated those accolades as big enough. Because ultimately I knew my existence would boil down to running a family. So when my parents suggested that I should get married, I never objected. I was conditioned that way. Being a girl, I could never dream of a career. I voluntarily gave up my studies. I had hardly passed the 12th standard. Literally, I buried my love for studies and education to brace myself for a new phase of life. But there are some passions which, when suppressed, can explode in a dangerous way. I thought my educational journey was over, but I was wrong. It was that passion within me which, upon being throttled, proved disastrous. I got busy with my new life. I became a young mother. And that was at a time when my friends were busy giving their graduation exams. Seeing them pass another level of their academic career, I felt that irresistible urge inside me. What am I doing? At least I should have got my bachelor's degree. But to think of going to college while being a wife and a mother was out of question. But the fire had been kindled, and it was burning strong within me. I became restless, I became impatient. No one could understand what I was going through, but I knew what it was. I had to give way to the passion that had built up inside me and had become explosive. So I spoke. I told everyone who mattered to me that I wanted to pursue my education. It was as though I had trodden upon a forbidden path. I know right now you guys might be thinking, what's the big deal? Why could I not study if I wanted to? We don't have such restrictions nowadays, do we? I agree with you all, but 30 years ago, that was not the case, especially in a conservative society to which I belong to. I was asked, what about your duties? What about your husband? What about your son? And the most important question, what would society say? It hardly mattered to me how I would come off in front of the society, because was the society really going to be affected if I equipped myself with education? As for my family, my husband, my son, they would definitely be better off if I was mentally fit. So I defied all norms. I studied for 2 long years. I gave 2 major exams, and I passed out in flying colors. I was proud. Interestingly, those dissuading me were also proud of me. I had learned an early lesson in life. Do not let taboos become your master. They are simply remnants of the past, trying to show their dominance, trying to show their invincibility. They scare those who fear them the most. Taboos, though, did not stop challenging me, and I could feel their grip on me once again when I lost my husband to kidnappers. I was of 32 years then. It was that phase of my life which left me completely shattered. I was now judged by my stars, the time when I was born, as though they were the reason for the untoward incident. My mind was not working, but there I was, praying at every shrine, in front of any idol or any roadside stone. My palm, my horoscope were being shown to every astrologer. Food restrictions, no salt on Sundays, no wheat on Tuesdays, eating once on Fridays, and so on, made me an ideal wife. Taboos had taken full control of me and my life. My going out of the house was frowned upon. People mostly came to my house to see what condition I was in. If I was found in a normal state, they sneered at my back. And if they found me in an emotionally weak state, it was proclaimed that had I been strong, I would have reverted the situation. I became an outcast among my own people. I could see fingers being pointed at me when I stepped out of the house. Look, she's the one. See how boldly she walks, seems unaffected, and so on. You know, sometimes I wanted to cry out loud and ask, have I committed any crime? Am I in this situation by choice? There wouldn't be any answer, of course. This went on for full 1 year. My world had fallen apart. My children's innocent faces looked towards me for support. But my mind was not in a state of normalcy. I was losing my identity. We Indian women hardly have any identity beyond that of our husbands. I had become an emotional wreck. I was silently diving deeper into depression. No one could understand what I was going through, what I needed most at that time. No one could understand that I was not mentally well. I wanted people around me to decode my state of mind, to take me out of that hopeless situation. But there was no one. I wouldn't blame only those around me at that time for being unmindful. We people sitting here discussing the changing faces of taboo, are we too not oblivious to the mental agony and pain suffered by our near and dear ones? How many of us have even cared to know what is behind the smiling face of our mother, for instance? If each one of us introspects, we will find that mental health and emotional well-being are aspects which we blatantly ignore. We choose not to speak on them because they are taboos in this modern world. What is required of us in such a situation that we run away from such circumstances? All that the person who is suffering wants a friendly advice, some positive guidelines, serious counseling perhaps, and in most of the cases, we are simply required to be a patient listener. And that can go a long way in lifting the person out of the condition in which he is in. Talking about myself, something had to be done because a lot was at stake. I couldn't let my world shatter for the callousness of others. I had to help myself. I had to get engaged into something that would make me think positively. Being academically inclined, I decided to start a coaching institute of my own. I could work and I could be with my kids at the same time. The reaction to this much needed endeavor was like, I was not being stopped, of course, but I did not get wholehearted support either. Hidden faces of taboo, aren't they? I did not care, but because I knew my cause was just. The fight was against my own mental weakness. It was a sort of satyagraha I had waged against my own self. I started off with a handful of students, literally handful of students, but that was enough to infuse life into me. This newfound positivity resonated in various other aspects of my life, especially in the lives of my children. They were growing up with their own share of dreams. I had to support them. I had to give them the wings that would make them fly and achieve those dreams. Societal taboos once again raised their head in front of me. Single mothers ought not to stay alone. So I shouldn't be sending my children to better places to get education. Past experiences had taught me to listen to my inner voice rather than the clatter of the society. I spat on the face of taboos. And I went ahead with my decision. Today I'm thankful that I did. There are many times when we have to take such tough decisions. This decision of mine, nonetheless, made me very lonely. The old feeling of desolation began to grip me once again. But I could not allow myself to get victimized by the new circumstances. I knew the trick this time. Do something productive. Keep yourself busy. Immediately the positive rays will start coming from within you. This time I decided to start studying once more. I was nearing my 40s, but that did not stop me from attending college with students half my age to get the B.Ed degree. Couple of years later, I even did masters in political science. People who saw me said that I was slaying one restriction after another. You know, friends, a woman is like a tea bag. She shows how strong she is only when she is in hot waters. So was my case. I could also have become one of the victims of taboos, but I fought with my circumstances. I could also have become one of those who blamed their stars, who blamed their fate and kept on suffering emotional and mental distress. But I decided otherwise. There are many women who suffer this fate. My advice to each one of them, my message to each one of them is, step number 1, recognize your problem. Step number 2, develop a will to tackle that problem. Step number 3, move ahead with your head held high. Disabilities and taboos will lay down their arms. So having achieved 2 degrees, having had a successful career as a teacher, I thought these achievements of mine, at least they were keeping me mentally fit and agile. Hardly did I know at that time that each one of these endeavors from my side were a stepping stone towards better opportunities and achievements. Achievements which I never even dreamt in my wildest dreams. And one fine day, I find myself sitting in front of the superstar Amitabh Bachchan, and I end up winning some $1 million. More than that, the praises that he bestowed upon me for being knowledgeable, for being confident, for being an epitome of women empowerment, made me feel as though I was getting a cumulative certificate of appreciation for all my past struggles. Undeniably, it was a culmination of all the efforts that I had put in to keep myself mentally fit and updated with education. I'd like to conclude with a small example from Mahabharata, where Krishna is seen telling Bhishma about the futility of old and redundant traditions. He said that traditions are like fruit, very bitter and repulsive when they are born. With time, it turns sour. Some people like, some do not. As more time passes by, the fruit becomes juicy, delicious, and it finds acceptability among everyone. But one day, the fruit falls off from the tree on its own, signifying that its life is over. If it is allowed to remain beyond its stipulated time, it rots, causing harm to the one who consumes it. My dear friends, traditions, taboos are just like that. They need to die after the time is over. We cannot drag them on. They become stale, they become poisonous for the one who comes under the effect. Only one thing is constant, and I'm sure you all will agree with it, and that is change. Change is the only thing that's constant. Let each one of us become the change that we wish to see in this world. Thank you.